One, and I think I'm live now. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode, another live stream of my making a web desktop slash fake OS, faux S. Well, maybe that'd be a good name for it. Faux S, like FAUX S. No, I'm happy with the name I've got, but anyways, that's an idea. This is day 337 of me working on this project, this specific side project, and I'm still having a great time doing it. It's a live stream, so feel free to throw me a message in the live chat. And if you're seeing this after the fact, oh, I didn't turn my own video off there for a second. I had a little echo of myself. But also it's a good audio check. Sounds like my mic's working okay. But yeah, if you're seeing this after the fact, throw a comment in the comments if you want to. Criticism, comments, anything like that. Courtesies. If you like this video, you like what I'm doing, you like the project, you just want to throw some likes around, then give me a thumbs up on the video. Throw me a like. And if you want to motivate me, you want to follow me, that kind of thing, then please subscribe. It's much appreciated, and it keeps me going. And I'm typically powered by Red Bull. Today I got the winter edition again. I think I had the spring or summer edition last week. But we're basically in winter, so that's good. I already got my weekly Abrar22 message here. I got my live chatter that's always suggesting some interesting stuff. What's it today? Search up Google Stadia in the 90s on YouTube. Google Stadia in the 90s on YouTube. Okay, let's give it a peek. All right, that sounds like a reasonable search. Let's just see what's up here. What Google Stadia would have looked like in the 90s. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm on my incognito mode, so I have to watch the ads. Maybe I shouldn't watch ads on my stream. Well, anyways, I'll make a note of it. Thank you, Abrar. It looked like a cool, like, retro-esque thing. I am going for the retro look. I've decided to go more Windows 10 with mine compared to some people that have gone more old school, but I'm going to look into this, and if I can find any integrations, I'll check it out. But I don't want to... I'm not sure with those commercials, you know? I'm always worried on this station of saying some copyright thing and having YouTube chop it down for no reason. So, anyways, much appreciated. That's cool. That sounds like a cool idea. Like, I get it. I get it. I'm gonna check it out. Without further ado, let's get into the code. Or actually, let's just take a peek at what this is. Where are we so far? I give pretty quick little overviews every week. We got a start menu. We got a sidebar. We got the scroll bar here. We got the... Oh, right, this was one thing I was going to mention for games. So I don't put the games on the repo, on my GitHub repo. So I just curate those on my local machine, and I've got a new one that I've added a couple, DOS games specifically, and figure I can show you them. Also got another follow-up message here from Abrar. Do a 2021 version on Stadia like Squirrel Monkey. Okay, that sounds interesting. 2021 one, like Squirrel Monkey. Okay, let me write down Squirrel Monkey as another thing to take a peek at. All right, thank you. But yeah, let's take a peek at these games that I have added recently. So I put Commander Keen back. I had Commander Keen in my old version of this OS, so we've got it back now. These are DOS games, so it's really endless which ones I could add. The things I've done is kind of put the icon in there. I've also done a JS. I've packaged it in a JS DOS format, which has like a little config file and stuff added to it. Another game I'm going to have, I already had Doom. That's on the desktop too. Another game I've added, this one's a new one. This one I didn't have on my old one. Was, well, one before I go into that one, another one I did have on my old version of a desktop was Jazz Jackrabbit, so I have that one back. As you can see, these load pretty fast too. I mean, it's going to depend how quickly someone can download the game from my server, but I'm intending to set up a pretty quick server, hopefully, that can handle some traffic. And then the new one is this, it's JS DOS is doing this weird thing that I've noticed it's doing sometimes. I'm going to refresh. There's a bug I've got noted to deal with, where sometimes I've noticed now that JS DOS will like open twice. It's the weirdest thing. And then it'll be like there's two running back to back, almost. So that's noted on my board. That's one to look into for JS DOS. But I just restarted it for now, just because I'm dealing with that later. So yeah, this was a cool game. I mean, in all the cases, in all four of these DOS games that I have, they're all the shareware versions. I've triple checked. See this one here says right there, unregistered shareware. So I'm going on the mentality that shareware is something I'm allowed to put on my site. And for that reason, I have these 4 shareware versions that basically just have like level 1 or whatever it is they have. I can full screen this. Oh, that's another issue I've got on my board. I've got 2 issues with JS-DOS that I noticed recently. One was that sometimes it unmaximizes on the first go, and another was that whatever that other issue is I just mentioned a second ago. This is a fun game, though. I always liked playing this game. I remember playing this as a kid. I think I even, as a kid, I literally just played the shareware versions of games. Like, there's so many shareware versions out there. You could just play level 1 in a bunch of different games and have a pretty good time, honestly. So that's the idea that I'm kind of putting into my OS. But yeah, that's what I've added today, or this week. I mean, like I say, this one and this one I already had. I kind of tweaked the icons a bit to make them the format that I like. Otherwise, we got all sorts of cool tools here. We got dev tools. We got a browser now if you want to do some browsing. We got a text editor. Oh, this episode I'm going to add the status bar to the text editor. It's going to be like a full IDE one day. I think I fixed a few bugs in the photo viewer. Ruffle, nothing needs to change on Ruffle. I think I upgrade Ruffle in a few other libraries today. Space Cadet's still fine. Nothing to upgrade there. That's working okay. The terminal, I'm always changing that. I have a lot of improvements to the terminal this week, actually. I finally switched to a different method of handling terminal inputs rather than trying to roll my own. It's actually hard with Xterm to kind of roll your own local echo type of thing. But there already is a package out there, and I've done some massaging to it. I can't remember all the little improvements I've done. I almost have to have a PR put to their repo. So as you can see here, I have a lot of apps. It's cool that all these actually ran all at once without any issue, honestly. And they're all working with Peak as well. You see I've got a little Peak window here. Oh, there's quite a bit of flicker with that one. That's interesting. That's probably something to look into. Some of them flicker. There's occasional bugs with this Peak effect, but for the most part it works pretty good. Or if I hover over the things, oh, interesting. I found a bug. So trying to peek on the browser causes some kind of iframe craziness, I guess. Let me make a note of that. Peek on browser causes error. That's funny. Maybe it tries to refetch the entire thing because it uses HTML to image, which actually copies the DOM. So it might copy the iframe and try to fetch it again. Anyways, noted. That'll be for me to deal with later. So this week we have less commits, which I'm happy about. I think there's not even 34. There's a couple probably that I can combine and skip maybe 1 or 2 that are just like package upgrades where I'm going to do them all at once, which I guess is the same as combining. So anyways, let's get to the first one. Clear all storages on restart. This was one thing I noticed where specifically this tool here, dev tools, I noticed was saving in I don't know if it was saving through cookies or local storage. I can't even remember, but you see here, if I change the skin, let's say to Dracula or whatever, and then I click this button here, this is supposed to reset everything, and it does reset my file system stuff, but I realized it doesn't reset certain other apps. So you see here now it's still on the Dracula one, it's not on the Monaco. And if I go up here and I say clear site data, and then I do another nuke here, let's say, oh wow, that's cool. The errors go to that log as well. I've never checked that out. Now it should be back to Monaco. Yeah, now it's back to the other one. So basically I just want to have that removed whenever I do a reset. And if let me just set it back to here again, and then we'll go into the application data and we can see where it was. I think it was in local storage. Yeah, here it is here in local storage, all this Eruda stuff. So I was only clearing my IndexedDB file system here. I wasn't clearing session storage or local storage or cookies. And I think this commit, I did a bit of that. I say here the word all, but I think it's just for storages. I don't think I messed with cookies because I don't think any app that I have creates cookies. And in general, my site's completely serverless and totally just you visit the site and now you're running the OS kind of. So I just downloaded a patch here of this commit, and I'm going to apply the patch to my repository. Sorry, by the way, of any sniffles I might be doing. Dustin, look up Discord. I actually have a Discord channel, by the way. It's in my comments. If you want to join me on Discord, we can chat. I never mentioned that, but in the description for all the videos, there's a Discord channel, and I have my own Discord channel. I don't have it open very often, but feel free to join, and I'd love to chat with anybody that wants to have discussions. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So git apply, and I'm going to drag in the patch file. Windows added.txt, but the extension doesn't really matter anyways. Press enter, it applies the patch. I go over here typically and just paste the message just to get that out of my clipboard. And now we can take a peek at what these changes were. So I've changed it from being called resetfs to be called reset storage on the file system. And that is it for that little piece. That piece didn't change. So this is all it was anyways. Is like it run a function, and then when that's done, fail or succeed, it would reload the page. But now instead of just resetting the FS, I'm doing all storage. So here, again, it was the same thing. This is another place I was using resetfs. Where is this in? Oh, this is in the sidebar. What was this one? Oh, right, in the command prompt, I can type like shutdown or reboot or something. And then the third one here, this is the actual meat of it. What did I do? So before, I was just clearing that one my main file system, the read and the writable, emptying them. And I'm still doing that piece here. Looks like I've changed. Now I loop through the databases, it looks like. No, I just do one extra step. What is it that I do here? Oh, okay. In IndexedDB, I get the databases. I have the databases. I don't delete my browser FS one because I already had this logic for essentially resetting it. So I don't even mess with that file system. I skipped that one, but the other IndexedDBs that possibly might have been created, I fully do the .delete database on those. And then I still do what I was doing before of resetting the FS. And at the top here, I also reset the local storage and the session storage. So it's a much more clearing versus before where I was just resetting the browser FS. Now I'm fully clearing local storage, fully clearing session storage, and deleting any other IndexedDB that isn't browser FS. Like I said, I'm not deleting cookies right now, but I don't make any cookies, so I don't... I'm not sure how hard it is to do. I just didn't do it, so something for another day. Anyways, clear all storage on restart. Let's paste that in there. And we've done our first commit. Nice, that one went nice and quick. Next up, so this is that local echo, and I'll give him a shout out here. These are the only guys in town as far as I can see, even though this package hadn't been updated in 3 years, I think. Yeah, 3 years here. It says here 3 years last publish. But basically the idea of local echo, it's honest what he writes here. You'll be surprised how difficult it is to implement a fully functional local echo controller for Xterm. You know, you're right. It is kind of frustrating. And it was getting out of control, so I've basically removed my implementation and I've just adopted this one. And what I've done too, and this is kind of an interesting way to do certain open source things. This is all you can find. It's 3 years old. Okay. So what I did is I went through the PRs and I actually looked. I mean, all these bump packages I didn't mess with, but there were a few legitimate things that people had kind of tweaked where I took their tweaks. Same with things and issues where I found some issues that had been solved by other people that basically just forked the repo. That's another thing too, is I went up here to the forks. You can go to the forks, people that have made a copy of the repository to do their own changes to it. And you can look at all the different forks and see like, okay, well, what commits did they add that never got upstreamed? And I basically just applied every kind of improvement I could find. There weren't that many, but I got a couple. And I also did a few things my own way. Like for Control-C to end the command, I changed that to be just to not display the up arrow C thing that it was displaying. And a few other minor tweaks to make it closer to what I already had. And I think it's several commits. I'm not sure if I'm going to combine them. Let me just see how complicated some of these other ones are. This one's kind of chunky for the autocomplete. Yeah, let's not combine them. Let's just go through them gradually because there's not a huge amount of them. Basically just these 4 right here are my improvements to the terminal. Recent ones. I'm going to install this because I know we need, wait, do we need that? No, I'm actually not sure. Let's run the patch file. We'll open up the terminal again that I closed for no good reason. Well, actually, I closed it for a good reason. It was in the way visually. It was just in the way. Okay. Oh, what happened there? Oh, that's not the right patch file. Something when I save text files from Chrome to my desktop that doesn't refresh. But I've noticed some files that I save to my desktop do refresh my desktop and show me the patch file. So arbitrary feeling. Oh wait, I'm pasting this as a reminder to see. Okay, so I actually don't even need this package because I actually cloned the repo myself locally and changed a few things. Like I said, maybe in the future I'll make a PR to show everybody what I changed, But basically nothing. Basically, I just looked through the existing PRs and bug fixes and made sure that I was at least up to date on what other people had ran into, basically. So otherwise, this is the local echo minified file. And let's go through the files one by one and stage them as we figure them out. This rule I decided to finally turn off. I think somewhere down the line here, I ran into another issue of it, but this underscore dangle issue is kind of annoying anyways, because it's just complaining about how you name variables, but the only time I ever name them this way is when I'm using existing variables, and I don't think it should even complain about that. It's like, hey, it ain't my object, you know, so go away with that error. And I'm tired of just putting one-liner ignores, so I'm just tired of that rule in general. I'll name the variable in my own reasonable way, you know. I don't need that kind of babysitting from ESLint. So I added the local echo to the libs to make sure that it gets loaded with my load files function. That's all that was required there. I think I changed this help thing. I had to change a bunch of things, to be honest. This was just renaming a variable slightly, a function, from get time zone to get TZ. This was just to make it shorter, but it's related to the overall change in that I was trying to fit this code in. I'm just kind of trying to take the changes that are simple and put them up here in the stage changes. That's kind of how I work too when I'm coding, is that if I make a bunch of changes and I want to go, okay, well, where am I currently on the progress? I'll go through the changes and kind of move up the ones that I'm totally okay with, where it's like, okay, I don't think I have anything to do with that file. I'll put those at the top and then just kind of narrow it down until I'm at the bulk of what is not yet finished, kind of. So this functions one is basically what help was before. Help was just this piece here, and I have a functions file now. Help is here, it didn't change. I think it's because I wanted to move these commands and these aliases into somewhere, basically, that wasn't in the file that was getting way too big. So this is basically the same as the help file, but I've moved the main function definitions here as well, including the unknown command function, because that just, I was running that a few times, and it's a very generic string with just put the command in there. So these are some just generic functions to kind of output some generic stuff. And like I say, it's the same as help. It was just literally things that already existed that I moved into one file. So here you see me kind of switching a few files around. I wonder if we should get to this piece. We can get to this piece right now, and I'll explain what this is about. Before, I was directly working with the xterm. Actually, let's move quickly to explain what the xterm.js. This is the thing I'm using to do the terminal. It's this library called xterm.js, build terminals in the browser. But it's very batteries not included, I guess, where you have to put, even if you want to go left and right, delete, backspace, even just typing any key at all, you have to handle all of that. And I was working on it, but it's actually a bit of work, and it's a little annoying because you can't even, you have to like send characters to delete things and stuff. It just becomes confusing. So now I'm using this local echo, and I basically was able to remove a bunch of boilerplate crap I didn't need. So it's like the printing of this new line I don't need that anymore. And then the .write command it became .print. Otherwise, very little changed here. Basically just that, yeah. From terminal write to local echo print. And also I didn't need the convert new lines function anymore that was kind of tweaking the new lines, because that's also something that local echo does for me with its print command. So again, that simplified that. Same exact thing here for the process, the get functions, just changing terminals to local prints, getting rid of new lines I didn't need. In general, simplifying the functions when I can. For the most part, nothing changed there though. Same with the Python one, just changing the wording there, making it more simple. The types here had to completely change. I no longer do some of the things in my command interpreter, like cursor position and history position. That stuff's all handled inside local echo now, internally for the most part. And I basically just handle like, I have the ability to print. Read is essentially like asking for the user to give input. So read kind of starts things up, the prompting. This autocomplete handler was really cool because I wanted to have the autocomplete feature to be able to do autocomplete tabs. We got our daily spam here, weekly spam that I get. Don't know who wastes their time spamming me. Thank you. Reported. The autocomplete handler allows us to do tabs, and they've actually thought this one out a lot better than my autocomplete was, and I've made some improvements to it as well. Like one improvement I did is that if you press tab and the thing that's going to autocomplete has spaces, that it automatically puts quotes around it. And it also doesn't add a new line at the end, or a new character, sorry, a space character. These are some of the things that local echo did or did not do that I've modified. Another thing, it exposes the history, so that was cool. I was able to use that for my history command that I have to list what the history items are. You also can set the history size. I decided to set that because the default is a bit low. Other than that, not too much change. Local echo controller had these two pieces of the constructor that you need to pass in the terminal, and you pass in your options. I had to do a little bit of definition myself here, which I did. That's basically all that is. And what's next? The file system thing. Oh, this is the underscore dangle. I guess this seems completely unrelated, but I think that there was one other place where I had to remove it. Anyways, that was just me deleting that rule because I'm ignoring it now. And this file has a lot of changes. Let's see if this one's a little bit better. Not really. Okay, so here we get into the meat and potatoes of what I had to change. I'm going to kind of go through it quick because it's basically, the basic idea is just what I said. Is just that local echo is now handling things like the cursor position, the auto complete, the history, and all the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, all that stuff. So if we look at, let's say, the command, you can see there's a lot of red here. I was able to remove a lot. Ignoring the imports. Some of the pieces I actually moved back into the terminal because it made more sense, like the printing of the license and the version. Although it's debatable, I think I end up moving that back shortly, so we'll see where that goes. But let's just get into the meat of this. As I said, I moved this out to that functions file. Same with this. Those are just taking up space. So you see here, I don't need anything with history or position or any of that stuff. I was keeping track of a bunch of garbage, the command also. Now all I have to do is just keep track of the current directory. I switched it to a ref because that was easier than setting a state where you kind of set the state, you need to refresh again. It made perfect sense to do a ref here because the current directory is in the prompt, and I don't want the prompt function to have to update every time that the current directory did. So I just use a ref to say, just look here every time, and that place is never going to move, but the text will change there. So you see, I didn't need any of these commands anymore. Just delete a ton of stuff. Clear, I think I didn't know how to do it, and I still don't think it's perfect. I might make a note about that, actually. Yeah, it's not perfect yet. I'll make a note. Terminal CLS has 2 leading new lines. I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather it be right at the top. Otherwise, that's fine. So I didn't need any of these commands anymore. The function I return, before it would take no parameter. Now it takes the command. So I pass the command into my command interpreter now. And otherwise, not too much had to change. Basically, just again, switching from terminal write to local echo print in most cases, and just making things simpler. The current directory thing I mentioned. Yeah, this is all just, instead of terminal, use local echo, basically. But I was able to make some things simpler. The history was already being exposed here. That's all that this is here. Nothing else changed. Just simplifying of commands, removing of unnecessary new lines. I didn't need this thing here where I keep track of what the command was. Local echo is doing all of that now. And then on the terminal side, like I said, I've moved this piece into here instead of where it was out there. I have a function called paste to local echo where I use local echoes. I think I ended up replacing this. I think I found a function that's even better than this that they expose. But presuming I didn't, this is to allow me to paste into a specific cursor position. Right, I'm doing manually here, forcefully setting the input. I think I do fix that in a bit, but for now, this is my idea of how I did it originally. I think that there's something called set input that's exposed that actually updates the cursor, and I think we'll move to that. But all it's really doing is the same thing that I figured out how to do here, because local echo does expose its input string and its cursor position to be changed if you want. So you can, if the cursor is at a certain place and I want to paste something, before that wasn't quite working right, it would try to paste it at the end with what I thought was exposed. But maybe they have other API stuff. The whole key handler here I basically didn't need for the up arrows, the backspaces, almost any of that. I didn't need any more. Local echo's doing all of that. Just that paste to local echo before I had paste to terminal. I did have to switch. Wait, what happened here? This was down here. I just moved this up a little bit at the top that it initializes all the terminal stuff. Right. It basically made it all one command. There was, I think, 2 effects here before. No, why was it in the other order, I wonder? Looks like I had it in the inverted order, and I've kind of combined these conditions now. So this is just loading the terminal. We create the fit plugin. Here's the local echo where I pass in that history size. 1,000's enough. If someone puts 1,000 things in my terminal, cool. I mean, you're probably spending too much time on my website, I would say, if that's the case. But you could always increase this anyways. It's just the history. It's not important. And I fixed, there was a bug with their history that I fixed where after 1,000 it was removing the one you had just typed instead of the first one you typed. I fixed that. And other people had fixed it. I'm not taking credit for it. Here, I switched the clipboard. I got rid of this get clipboard text because it literally was just running navigator.clipboard.read text, which is simple enough. And then I paste that. This is the key handler now. It was only one thing. The only thing I had to manage now was Control V for being paste. So I have Control V work as paste still. And I moved the welcome message into the initial booting loading here because it only ever had to occur once, this local welcome message, basically. So that's the terminal. And if we see it now, we refresh this, we open up the terminal. I think we'll see if I type hello and then oops, what happened here? Hello, and then I go left, 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 space, space, enter. You see yeah, that worked. It's taking the he was one command and it skipped the LO part. But it allowed me to go left and put the spaces in that spot and then send that command. So that was something that was literally difficult before. And now if I press up, we still got our history here. So that's still working. And now we have autocomplete as well. So if I go dir cd desktop and I type tab. Oh, wait, what happened there? Autocomplete's the next commit. I haven't done the autocomplete part yet. Yeah, you don't just get it for free. I didn't show you it in the code, so it didn't magically just exist. You have to give it information to do the autocomplete. Also, this dir command, I improved this this episode, I remember now, to make it look more like the Windows one. Anyways, I think we're done with this commit. What was this one called? Use local echo for terminal processing. Yeah, that's probably good enough wording for it. There we go. Use local echo for terminal processing. Done. So that's the first part of improving the terminal is offloading that logic that was just too much for me. Cheers. What next? Autocomplete. Let's go right to the patch. The basics of this autocomplete handler are actually quite simple. So kudos to the guy who made local echo and did this autocomplete handler because it seems pretty well thought out, I thought. Be crazy if they were watching this. It doesn't seem likely, especially if they haven't updated the thing in 3 years. Sorry about the sniffles if I didn't mention that. I got some sniffles today. So let's see, what did I do here? So I made my own autocomplete function here that kind of triggers the autocomplete handler. And what it does is it resets the initial one. I guess this wasn't happening natively. I don't know why, or maybe I just didn't do it right. But like when you change directories, wasn't there a way to remove it? I think there is a way to remove it, but it just seemed more easy anyways in the end. The remove was like you had to have the original handler function so that it could find it in the index. And it's like, I just don't want any of them anymore. I'll make them again. And then how do I make them again? So what I do is I pass in the directory listing here. And here is the commands that come from the commands list as the keys, which are the commands. And the way that this index works is basically where you are in the position of the command. So if the first command, if you haven't typed anything, you're essentially at index 0. So when you press tab, it's going to suggest commands to you. But then once you've got a command and now you've got a space and you're at the next thing to type, it's like the next argument, now you're at index 1. So basically the way that I did it here is if you're at the first index, you're at the 0th index, it's the command, and anything else just keep suggesting directories or keep suggesting whatever's in that current directory, which is similar to how it works in Windows. I had to define the fact that the autocomplete handler is being revealed here in the types so that I could use it without it complaining too much. Here in the command interpreter, I've trimmed the command. Why do I do that? Is that relevant? Doesn't seem relevant. Okay, well, I trim it. Okay. Why do I do that? I feel like that's unnecessary, trimming it. No, I think that is necessary. I think I was getting a problem where the space at the end, it was complaining about that. Okay, so we have to trim the file names. I'm not sure that's related to autocomplete. Oh, no, actually it is. This issue, though, was something that I ended up fixing in the local, when I changed local echo to not add spaces at the end of the autocomplete. I wonder if I remove this in a follow-up command. Let's make a note in case I don't. Don't need to trim if no space after autocomplete. And we'll see if that actually, if I need these trims anymore. For now, I think I might need them, but I think I changed the library in the next couple commits to improve upon that. Because I don't want it adding a space at the end, and that's what it was doing. I added to the change directory command to make sure that it actually is a directory that it wants to change to. Yeah, these things are only tangentially related to autocomplete. I think that these showed up because my autocomplete worked. So I started changing directories and I realized like, oh, I shouldn't be able to change to a file. And now I get a legitimate error. The directory name is invalid. Okay, so those are just trim commands and basically unrelated stuff. Where's the part where I actually did something? Here we go. So I pull in read directory, and then when I first boot the command prompt, I do read directory, the home directory, and then autocomplete. Okay, I don't think that works. Does that work? Do I do it for change directory too? Oh yeah, I also do it here in change directory, the same exact thing. I read the new directory, and then I reset the autocomplete with that new information. Here's the files, and here's the local echo to add it to it. Same thing I do here. So that's the gist of that one. And I'm gonna let's demo it first. So we open up a terminal here. We can see we got desktop. So I go CD, D, E, and I press tab. There we go. Cool. So we got desktop, and it did add that trailing space. So we haven't yet fixed that, but I added in the code to trim. So if I press enter, it works. But in the future, I can remove trim and just not have that annoying space. We'll get to that. Terminal autocomplete. Committed. Let's move on to the next one. Use more local echo function. So what did I end up doing here? Okay, yeah. Here's where I switched from the autocomplete handlers. Okay, so I still used getting the autocomplete handlers, but now instead of just dumping the array, I do use that function that they gave me of remove autocomplete handlers. I also stopped using cursor and input, and now I use this handle cursor insert that was already doing what I wanted it to do. And I added that remove autocomplete handler. So yeah, now I didn't need this paste to local echo. Now I can just do the handle cursor insert, which is much smoother. And then here's the update. What is this? I updated this for some reason. I updated the lib. I don't know why, but let's just roll with the update. Doesn't seem related, but I can't remember all the deficiencies that library had that I had to improve upon. Not a huge amount. I'd upstream it, but it looks like they're not really taking commits. 3 years they haven't merged one. There's a bunch of them in there too. I might do it anyways. I already have the code, so we'll see. This one's use more local echo functions, right? And we've already reviewed them. We just reviewed them here, so same stuff, but less code. I was able to, local echo actually had figured out that paste insert one. They should have a clear all autocomplete handlers function. That would probably be handy. But they don't. So that was a simple, basically a refactor. Here I've gone to using, right, before I was doing clear and then I was writing this like clear the line. Reset basically does the same thing. So we'll just change to using reset because it's a little simpler and a little less confusing as to what the heck it's doing. Neither is ideal though. Like if we go here and C reset, or C clear, sorry. Where is it here? CLS. You see these two spaces at the start. I do not want them at all. So I need to think about how to fix that specifically. It's not as easy as you'd think it probably should have been. I think I tried a bunch of stuff, and local echo really didn't want me doing that, so I have to change the library more. But it's pretty minor, so I've put it off. I think I made a note of it already this episode. So that's everything I did on the 28th. I didn't do anything on the 29th. Here's the 30th. Okay, and there's a few more improvements here to the terminal. What did I do now? Parse command. Oh man, I did a bunch of stuff here. Holy moly. Improvements. That's a word for it. That looks bulky. I think I made a little bit better parser for the arguments. I think the way that my arguments were being parsed is I couldn't handle things in quotes, which was pretty necessary for some of the files and folders changes. So I think that's probably a chunk of what I did here. But let's try to figure out what did I do? So in ESLint, I now ignore the inferable types. I think that was just giving me a lot of trouble. No inferable types. Oh, you know what? Yeah. So inferable types, like if in use state, you put the number 1, then it can infer that the type is a number. But I think there was some scenario where I was getting a false positive, and it was wrong, I think, not me. But I've just decided, you know what? If I want to put an inferable type, just let me. It's not hurting it. It's just maybe a little more code, and in this case, it seemed necessary, even though it was giving me what I would call a false positive. Let's look at the code here. Let's look at the simple code. Any simple code here? So this one's simple. This is just the process command. Yes. It turns out that because this only happens once when you're first prompted, it makes the prompt function that needs the process command. But process command needs to be able to update over and over again. So rather than having it be one function that currently is just in that state, I've switched it to a ref, I believe. Right, it's coming from the command interpreter. So I didn't have to change anything else here. But now it's a ref, so the current part is the function. This way, this function never needs to change, but the current reference can change. That allowed the prompt to not be stale. That was one improvement. Now let's look at some of these command improvements here, because darn it if I didn't do a bunch. Right, so I made a simple function here to get the path, because I was doing it several times. And I was also making some assumptions. I was like, if there's a /, then it's this kind of thing. But the path, node path functions has something called isAbsolute, which is exactly what I cared to look for. So I just made that into a function that I could use. And now I have this parse command. Before, I was basically just splitting the command with spaces. Now I made a parse command function. And all that it's really doing, let me just refresh my memory on what it's doing. Basically just getting the spaces. So before I went, sorry, not getting the spaces, handling quote detection. Also got another suggestion here from Abrar. Make a 2024 version of Stadia. Just keep making future versions of Stadia. I haven't used Stadia, so I'll definitely consider that. Thank you. So yeah, I'm parsing the commands now. So now I can make a better assumption here. Like before, here you see I was doing that join and trim, but now I just get the command arg. And I just get the first one because I know that it's the file, and the file will be in quotes if it needs to be in quotes. So it only would have got the right one. None of this changed. This was indenting. Print line here instead of print. Yeah, I had to indent this more, I guess, for some reason. I guess just the way it... Oh, because I turned this into a function that gets passed in. Like a callback. Yeah, now I'm doing use callback. Okay. Otherwise, not much change. Just the get full path. Basically just the logic around getting the path correctly. Because in a few places I needed the path and I was manually doing it, like for the type command or cat, cd, dir, ls, all of these scenarios where you could get a path. I've just kind of improved upon it. This one here I made more logic. Right, before the dir command would only list the current directory. Now you can also pass a different directory and have it list that. So that's the logic I did here basically, was just for that. If the path exists and if it's a directory, read it. Otherwise, print its base name. Right. This is just how Windows works. And if the file doesn't exist, say file not found. And if you don't specify a directory, then just assume it's the current directory, which was the original behavior here. Nothing else changed there. So this part changed. This part was just me making a function for this. So here I had this little thing to make a table where I was like, do padding 25, and then your next thing you do 25, and then make a line that's 25, and then print out the information. I've turned it into this function where you can just say print table, and then you say your rows and their widths. So in this case, the PID is 25 and the title is 20. And then I can just pass in my entries as an array of those two items, the PID and the title for each one. And then it'll print it all out. So that's how and now I can reuse that. I haven't had a need to do it a second time, but I have this print table function now. For a few of the things I had to tweak here, I think. Right, for this. So for things like the Python command and stuff, I don't care if there's quotes and spaces. It's just like if you did a Python command, just everything after that, don't worry about how you parsed it. Send it into Python and let Python figure it out. So that was in the case of a few cases here for Python, for title. That was about it. This all has to do with the command parsing. And then, yeah, here's where I originally set up that command interpreter so that it can be a ref now. That was just easier. I'm having to use more refs in a few places when it comes to the terminal because things get triggered once, like that prompt gets triggered, and then it's basically got one reference to the closure for it. And I don't have an opportunity easily to unbind it and bind it again if the callback changes. So I just point to a ref the whole time. So that's that command. And then now let's look at these two things I did, the parsing function and the print table function. I'll just open this file because it's completely new functions. Oh, actually the file's not new. So let me just look at this piece. So just these functions here are new. First one being parse command. So just like before, we take the command string. And what do I do here? Reading quote. Right. I think I found this from someone else and it was like a decent idea. It was basically you just read down the string text letter by letter. And if you hit a quote, then you're essentially in quote reading mode. And then when you hit another quote, you're out of quote reading mode. And anything that you read in that is an argument. That was the basics for how I did it. So then I made a function to add the argument when you find it, because this happens twice, and it's basically the same little logic here of if there's a current argument, push it, and then clear here. Actually, yeah, this could be false or something. Anyways, this could have been slightly different, reworded, but it's simple in 2 lines. And then the parse command here, I take the command string, and if you do this ... you essentially turn a string into an array. So now it's like an array of each character. And then I reduce that array into this string array, where I have the accumulator, which starts as an empty array. And I just go character by character, and I say, is it a space? And am I not reading quotes? Okay, then that was an argument. Otherwise, if it is a quote, then we invert the reading quote boolean. Either were you reading before? Now you're not. Where you were before? Okay. And if you're no longer reading after the flip, then you finished reading one, and now you can send that argument to the accumulator with the add arg, where it gets the current arg, and it keeps track of the current arg here outside of the loop. And if neither of those scenarios, then we just keep adding to the current arg, add another character. And if there's a current arg, then we add it to the... Wait, what is this? What's this part? This part confuses me. Parsed command. Okay, this is the reduced command. Current arg. What is that? Oh, this is the last one, right? This is to handle when this ends, because at some point there's no more characters. There's the last character here where current arg still has some stuff. So if I say, okay, did you have anything for those last characters, or was that it? And if there was something still, if it didn't, after add arg and it cleared it, there was more stuff, then you make that the last argument. Otherwise, if there weren't any more, then you just go with what's already been reduced, the arguments. So that was the basics of my command interpreter for the argument. And then for print table, I think this looks more complicated than it is. If you remember, those headers is like the name and then the length. So here I take the headers, I map through them with their key and the padding, and I just say print out. I turn this into an array, I guess. What do I turn this into? Oh yeah, I turn this into an array of like the title that's padded. So I make all the little headers and then I join them here with spaces. So you get each one of them on one line. And then I do the same for the divider where I use the padding character, which is the equal symbol, and it can be changed here. You could pass in something different. And then I do the same for the content as well. I take the data and I map it row by row. And for each one, I just pad it. And then I print out the header, I print out the divider, and I print out the content. And this is for PS. So let's test it out now that this is applied. So PS, there we go. It printed it out. So that function could make other tables. And you see here, if I open another process and I PS again, now we see that process and I can kill it here. I can say kill. Oh, I have to allow the clipboard. Kill this process. There we go. Sent kill status and it killed it. Or kill signal, not status. That is improvements to the command parsing. So as you see, a lot of improvements to the terminal. We're not even done yet. I think we might take a break from the terminal here on our next commit and do something different, I believe. But I think we come back to it in the next couple of months after that. So now we move on to the hover effect for the dialog button. That's simple. Basically, just when you're copying a file, I have these dialogs pop up now, and the cancel button didn't have a hover effect. And this is just the hover effect. It transitions in. It's got a different effect when it's focused, where it has a little outline. When it's just hovered, it's got this background. When you click it, the background changes slightly. It also has no transition on that active. It's just instant. That's it. I don't even really have any interest in demoing that. I pretty much just explained it. I think it's just going to slow us down if I demo that one. It's just CSS. But it'll add to the magic, you know. One day when you guys have a chance to play with this thing when I post it, it'll just be another little piece of polish, hopefully, for somebody to say, ooh. Or who knows what. I don't even know why I'm... I just want it to be accurate, you know? This actually isn't for anybody else, the polish. The polish is for me because I see the dirt. And I need to polish, you know? It's like, if I'm using it and I get kicked out of the illusion because something doesn't work or is as expected, basically. Here's another little bug fix. Very minor. For, what is this? Allow download, archive, extensionless files. Yeah, and what is this one doing here? It's like two different things going on, it looks like here. Let's patch this, and then let's try to get a little bit of basis for what that second line change is. Oh, it is warm in my office, actually. Very warm. Too warm, perhaps. Let's see, what was the second one? Oh, this is for the downloading of files. What is the problem here? There's one zip file, and... Ah, yes, this was it. So... this is about files that have no extension, and that was breaking for URL here because URL required an extension, but path actually doesn't. So this making it path, the check actually made more sense because that's actually what's being used here. So I don't know why I was checking URL. That was wrong. So now when you right-click an extensionless thing, you can download it. But an issue with that was that for some reason, with the way that I do downloads, where you kind of trigger a download in Chrome or in any browser, it doesn't really like the extensionless stuff. It tries to add an extension like .txt. So the way that I do that with this check here is that if there's only one file, but it has an extension, then you can do the download. But if there's no extension, even if it's one file, zip it up, because the zipped file can have no extension inside it. But I can't send a no extension file to a user, it seems, because it just by default tries to add an extension. So that's the gist of that. That's a simple one, honestly. In the grand scheme of things. Terminal FS commands. Right, I do a bunch of commands here, if not all of them. Yeah, because I add copy, I add delete, I add make directory, I add move, I add remove directory, rename, remove file or directory, which is rm. I added the touch command. I also added some aliases like cp, erase, mkdir, mv, rmdir, rename. So let's look. Yeah, basically I just added all of them. Now that I have that command interpreting properly for the quotes, I felt comfortable enough to kind of just finish off the terminal commands. Good chunk of them, at least. Let's get to them. Let's see how I implemented all of these, because they're actually pretty simple, to be honest. Actually, not a lot to them. So this part is just the documentation. That's all that changed in that file. And then here's the actual code. So I had to pull a few functions in from our file system, make directory recursive, rename, remove, delete, write. Others we already had. So the update file, this is after you run a file command. I have it do this update file that runs different things depending on what's going on and updates the autocomplete depending on what happened as well. So the idea here with update file, I say if something got deleted. If it deleted, it removes it from that place that it was visually. Otherwise, it just refreshes it. And then if the directory, if the current path, if it was the current path, what does this mean? I guess this, what is this for? Is this for switching directories? I think this is for when I switch directories. No, it must not be. Why would I want to update autocomplete there? Well, that's what I'm doing anyways. I'm updating the autocomplete. But wouldn't have expected that the path... Oh, right. Of course. Because let's say I delete a file or I make a file. We need that to be reflected in the autocomplete. So the autocomplete needs to be recreated if the change happened in the current directory. That's fair. Okay, so here's my implementation of copy. We got our source and our destination from the command args. We got our full path with that function we made. And if it exists and we have a destination, then we get the full path for the destination and we write it. We write the file, the full destination, while we read from the source. And then we say one file copied because currently we only allow one file to be copied. And we update that, that path. And when we do this update, that will also externally outside the terminal visually update. Let's say if you had the folder open, it would appear. We also have the different other things that happen. These are all kind of replicas of how it happens in command prompt. So if there wasn't a source destination, it'll say this. If the file doesn't exist, it says that. Here's the delete one. So delete, remove directory, or rd, rm, rmdir, and delete basically all are handled the same way. You give me a path, I'll do something with it. I'll get rid of it. And it'll do that one way or another. I don't think it deletes non-empty directories, but I realize that the command prompt also doesn't do that by default. So I'm just going to let that be the behavior for now until I start adding command flags, which we don't have yet, like -b or /b or whatever, you know, those kind of things where you add little add-ons for how the command should run. Got another one from Abra here. Sonic Adventure 1 in Stadia. Okay. You're in a Stadia mood today, it sounds like. I haven't used Stadia, so I'm going to have to get updated on... I know what it is, but I don't know enough about it to know how it would integrate in with my system and what it all means. But thank you again for the enthusiasm, Abrar, and I'm taking notes of these. What's the next command here? Make directory. That's simple enough. I mean, all these are simple enough. Rename. They're all pretty much the same thing, you know? Do I need a source? Give it to me. Do I need destination? Give it to me. Make sure they're full paths. Run the command. Update where necessary. Return failed messages where necessary. Same for touch. Touch just makes an empty file. And then here's just the dependencies updated. So that's it. There really wasn't too much to those commands other than just adding them, you know? Just in the way the Node.fs is, it's already kind of set up. It's just like, just give me the strings. So we have a lot of commands in the terminal now. We're not done yet. Better file progress math, right. So that wasn't working properly. The copy-paste progress stuff. Like I would drag files on and there's a copy-paste dialog that appears. And the progress bar, the math was basically just not correct for how it does that. So I have improved it. And we're going to look together and figure out what did I improve? What did you do? Let's play What Did You Do, Dustin? Git apply. patch. Go to PlayTube and search up Google Stadia. Yeah, no, I definitely know what it is. I'll look at it, Arbor. Much appreciated, definitely. So what did we do here with the file progress? I had to specify that the no unused vars can handle the underscores. I actually think I have that somewhere else for some other thing, but in general, I like to be able to do that with unused arguments, to be able to just add the underscore in front of it as a clarification. So I specified that in my linting rules because I prefer that. And then, yeah, here for progress. So I no longer have this set file progress. I think I simplified this, yeah. So now within the process reader, what am I doing? I originally start the file progress at 0. I say set current. All right, it's one file at a time, and I can just do it internally within this loop. So I didn't need, yeah, I didn't need that other state. That's simple enough. Basically nothing changed here, except I just stopped using a state, as far as I can tell. Yeah, literally nothing else changed there. Even the math is exactly the same. Wait, current? Yeah, the math's even the same. So what part changed here? Was it here that changed? What changed? How did I fix my math? I'm trying to see what mathematically changed. It might have been related to the state. That might have been messing it up. File progress. Yeah, I think that might have been part of it. All these dispatch events versus just having this variable that I to keep track of it. This worked much smoother anyways. Abrar says, check your Discord DMs. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's chat on Discord about specifics for certain games. But in general, I'm happy for you to swing by every episode and have some cool suggestions. You have a girth of Stadia suggestions right now that I can't get into. But it's appreciated. So I guess for the math, all I really had to do was change, as far as I can see, all I did was change from using current loaded was file progress. Yeah, I just didn't need the state. I think it was getting, oh, right. So on end, I was clearing it, but I don't need to because I just need to start a new one. Yeah, I think before it didn't make sense and there was some weird race condition going on. Anyways, this math works. And I've also made the cancel button actually do something. Before it was just closing the dialog, but I found out what I can do is I can go in the file readers and loop through them and I can run this abort command on each one of them. So now when you press cancel on the copy, it literally will cancel, which is kind of cool. As simple as you think that would be, I did not expect it to be so simple. So I'm happy it ended up being simple. Let's commit this. Better file progress math. Yes. Next up. Clear URL once pasted in terminal. I don't even know what that means. Abrar here. Stop coding and check Discord DMs. Thanks, Abrar. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to right now. I'm just going to finish the stream right now. I don't want to get too distracted. Once I start looking at Discord DMs, I'm all over the place. I'm taking time to read stuff. I'll just do some coding for today, but we can chat absolutely after the fact. So this one's pretty simple here, it looks like. What did I do here? I handled the cursor insert. That's still occurring. Oh, but I clear the URL. Right. So the logic here was that if you take a URL and you dragged it onto the terminal, it would paste it in. But then it was saving it as the URL. So if I tried to drag in that same URL again, it wouldn't update because it said, oh, that's already your URL. I'm not going to change. So basically all I did is I added this clearing after the paste that will clear the URL so that you can drag the same URL back on again and have it once again create that. Or copy it, sorry. And I'll demo that one because that one's easy, but let's apply it here. Git apply, paste that in, and paste it here. Set URL, okay. Now we just can peek it here. Let's take a peek at it and see. So we go into terminal here and we drag it in there and drop it. And there we go. So we have Linux. I press enter and now I should be able to drag it again. Nice. So I can drag and drop the same URL more than once. Another message here from Abra. Do you remember Windows 96? Yeah, Windows 96 is legit. That's a very good one. It's probably on par with mine and in some ways better, honestly. To be fair with them. They've gone really far with it. They're like up there with my... These are the people I want to try to emulate as the Windows 96 dudes. And I've talked to them on Discord, actually. They have a rather active Discord channel. Okay. I want to commit this one. It's done. Clear URL once pasted. Save it here. But yeah, Windows 96, those guys are legit. Windows 93 is another good one where they really know their stuff and they're fun guys. I have never met them, but they look like characters from what I've seen of their material. What next? Improved directory listing. This is the one that I thought was fun that I did. Did I end up using print table again? I don't know if I did use print table or not. I'd be happy to know that I did, because that was exactly the goal of print table, was to reuse it. And that's a big fun part of programming actually that I like, is when you find a use case or you use something and then you find a way to generalize it. That's always cool. So improved directory listing. Let's see how I did it. So I did improve the print table function slightly. What did I do? Oh, so we have the ability to hide the header. I don't necessarily want the header. So if there's hide the header, if it's not on, we do the header calculations. Otherwise we don't. And we print it here at the start. And then content has become a little more complex. Why is that? Oh, I've added a third Boolean that says whether it's on the left or on the right. Okay, that's cool. So we have an ability to align things as well now. Rather than just pad it, we say pad start, or you want me to pad the end? Okay, and then in the command interpreter here, what did I have to do with that? I did a little bit of adjusting to the padding here on that first table. Here I use this list dir command instead of just printing the directory raw like I was doing before. And then the big part of it is this list dir command. Let's look at this and see what the heck I did here. So I did use print table. That's cool. But I had to build this command here to get the entries first and get all their stats so I could print it the way I wanted. Let's ignore this part for a second and just see how the printing part works. So I say directory of, and I print the directory. I print a new line. I print the table, which is just date, type size aligned to the right, and also name. And name takes up whatever the rest of the space is for how many cols there happens to be. I did some col math there to try to print it out. And then we get the entries with stats as the data. And the true here means we don't want to show the header. So we hide the header. And then I do the count of the files and the directory count. And that's it. So that's all I print. So how do I get entries with stats? I take the entries by reading the directory, like how we were doing before, where before we just took this and just dumped it right to the console. Now I take those entries, and then I get this entries with stats, which is a promise of every entry. I map through every entry, and I asynchronously have to get some information about it. I have to get their stats first, then I have to get the modified time, I get the date and time, and I tweak those to look like how the format of how they are in MS-DOS, including the padding and whatever else is necessary. I add this to the total size for the size printout, which I keep track of up here, along with which is a file and which is a directory. And I do some math there. And then finally I return each entry after doing a little bit of math there. So that's how the command works. Let's take a look at it. Now when we open the terminal and we do dir, there we go. We get one that looks a lot more familiar and looks like DOS, really. And these dates, this is all accurate. This is all my fake file system with my fake dir command. And yeah, like these numbers can change. Like I could even go into the blog here, documents, my blog posts. And then if I look at those, you see even the dates, because I've taken the time to modify them at modified times. So these dates actually match up with when the blog posts were made. And it's got this file sizes for them. It shows the travel directory here. Did the math on them, 6 files, 1 directory. Cool. So that's that. And the PS command still works for doing that. That is my improved dir command. Don't think there's anything else worth mentioning about that one. Oh wait, actually I wanted to check if I didn't do tweaks right after this. Yeah, I did. No wait. That was the one I'm working on right now. Okay, yeah, I do this and then I just go to upgrades and stuff. So that's it for that one. That's already done. Improved directory listing. Happy about that one. And once I have command flags, I'll bring back that other format where it just prints the list, because that's actually the same as dir//b, which is like bare bones or I don't know, whatever they call it, whatever their terminology for why they pick B. Basic. Okay, so now we will go to some easy ones here. Basically some upgrades. I almost wonder about doing these. I don't know why I waste my time with these sometimes. I think it's like I'm hoping they fix bugs. I'm not going to even waste our time in the stream doing these. One day before I release, I am going to do these upgrades. But I just did these in my spare time. I almost don't care to do them, to work on them. Or to apply them, because they didn't change anything of consequence. There were no bugs in any of these software that anything fixed. So I'm not going to waste our time just changing them for the sake of it. Let's move on to the... Wait, actually, let's double check here that I only changed packages. Make sure I didn't sneak in a change otherwise. Yeah, just the libs here. Just the JS file. This one, yeah. More files, but nothing changed. It's even a minor version jump. Not even worth discussing, barely. Yeah. We'll update that stuff one day, but let's not waste our time with it now. So here for stylant, I've gone back to the different alphabetical order that I preferred. Let's see, I think I removed a package too at the same time. There's two of these. Stylant idiomatic order. I've decided to get rid of the idiomatic order one. Yarn remove that, and also remove stylant-order. So we don't need either of those. And then we're going to go into the rules and delete those two. Yeah, delete most of the stylant rules that we aren't happy with. Stylant. So no to the idiomatic order. And no to disabling the old style of order. There we go. And now what we can do is we can run yarn stylant dash fix. And it should auto fix back to the old way, which was more alphabetical. There we go. And I think there's one file that's like stubborn, one or two files. So if we run stylant without dash fix, we do see that I think there was something it didn't fix. Yeah. Let's just fix this here that it didn't fix and hope it doesn't get mad at us for doing this later with some other patch. So it's easier to know what it wants here at least. What line was this? Line 53? Excuse me. I think M goes on top, and this goes on top of that. That's all that there is for that piece. The next one here was the file manager on line 12. Yeah, this one really didn't do a good job alphabetically. These should be up here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Where is it here? I, J, K, element OP, okay. That's this one here. QRS. All right, there. I think that alphabetized it. That should get that. So let's just see if this is good now too. Should be 0 problems in the scan. Nice. I'll run one with a fix just for the heck of it. And there we go. Change the stylant order back to alphabetical. There was some argument to idiomatic, but it honestly wasn't working properly. It just stopped working properly. So it's like, I'm done with that. Don't know why. It stopped applying. Maybe it's some other package update I did. Don't care. Alphabetical is fine. It's more intuitive, or it's more easy to know without thinking about what the groupings are for idiomatic. Smaller read-only mode banner. What does that mean? Ah, yes. This is kind of a nice little touch. So if you go into my blog entries here, and you open them in TinyMCE, there's currently this banner here where you have to click to go to design mode. So what I've decided to do is just make this one line instead of two. And I guess all it required was this wonky class change here. Talks Overlord or whatever the heck it is. Let's find this other piece of the puzzle so I can know where to put this. Right here. So I think it's just that. Or is it supposed to be in the ARIA disabled? Oh, it's in the ARIA disabled. So let me undo that change. It goes right after before? Yeah, no. Is it inside the header? Yeah, it is. Okay. Probably could have just applied the patch faster. Here we go. That's the change. Let's take a look at what it did. There, that's nicer. So it's just a little one-liner, and then when I click it, it appears both of them. So that's a little shorter, a little smaller, a little less distracting, I would say. And a very simple change. But I like to do these minor changes when I consider them improvements. Smaller read-only mode. Done. Also, this episode, we discussed the DOS games already. We're going to do just today, like, I did a little bit of the PDF viewer. I would say I've got part 1. I don't have Zoom yet, or a few other buttons I wanted to have, but I had enough where I was like, you know what, I'm going to commit that, and I am going to do that this episode because I've made progress. Add ability for siblings in container. Right, this was kind of a neat idea. So we already have the ability with the container component to add children inside of its base component, but I've also now added the ability for it to have siblings, kind of. So besides children, you can pass in siblings, and that'll go below the component outside of the children area. The reason for this was so that I could have a container component, but have the status bar outside of that and still have it fit. Another one from Abra here. Do a Sonic CD. Do a new game Sonic CD, but it's not a DOS game. Okay. I can if it's got an M script in or a WebAssembly or that kind of thing, then it's very much a possibility. I exported the patch. Let me apply it. Like so. And let's see. Yeah, that was all that was. It's very simple. This is kind of like a step 1 of 3, I think, to getting that status bar working. Next one here, add ability to set process arguments. This is another one that I use a little bit now. So process arguments, we already had a type for that, which is somewhere here. Yeah, we already had it. I didn't even have to change it, so it's not even mentioned here in the change log or in the diff. But the process arguments are things like the dialog can take arguments. The dialog takes when you open a dialog process, you can pass in a file reader's array. And that was a new concept, was that when you open a process, I was able to pass things in. And now I've also made a function here that once the process is open, you can change that or set a new one. And the use for this is that when Monaco loads the IDE, I want the Monaco process to have the Monaco instance, the editor instance, attached to the process, so that the status bar, which is outside of that hook, outside of that component, can reach into the process and get the editor instance to learn things about the editor so that it can show them on the status bar. That was a lot to say. And that's all that there was to it. It was just this argument command, the ability to update process arguments. And I like that in a way that I've formalized it, in that type formalized it by using the key of type of thing. So I didn't have to statically specify strings of any sort. I could just say reference the key of this type, and inside the process argument, the key of to get the value of here. And the process arguments are like this one here, or so like URL could be changed, or the dialog one. Those are things that can be things you can pass in when you open the process, and also things now that you can change while the process is running. So it's almost like things that can be associated with the process object that are kind of relevant to the process, like the Monaco editor instance. Okay. That was part 2 of getting the status bar to work. And now, the status bar. This commit also is useless. We don't need that one. So the status bar, I'm pretty proud of it, actually, because it looks a lot like the VS Code one. I was actually quite happy with how it turned out. I don't think I did any other changes to it that I can see, so let's just go straight to applying it. And I think, yeah, it's just basically this one patch was all I needed. That's got the whole status bar on it. Let's take a look at what we did here. So in the config, I no longer delete the Monaco global. That was just giving us headaches. That was causing bugs. And yeah, it was just making a mess of if there were 2 Monacos open and one got closed, that one would clean up the globals and it would break Monaco for the other one. So now we don't clean up globals for Monaco. We just, if you've opened Monaco, okay, now window.monaco exists, period. Just deal with it. Probably hurts memory a little bit. So here's the sibling idea now. So before this was where you put children. Now I have a sibling element and I pass its ID. So with the ID, it can go into the process and get the editor instance of Monaco and then know stuff about it. And it's associated with this container. That's where it lives. We'll do the status bar last. Let's get to the other stuff. So for the styling, I had to also account for the status bar, which is 30 pixels plus 1 pixel border. I don't have it in a variable yet, but for now I just have it written right there. That's accounting for making Monaco. So Monaco was like that. Now it's like a little smaller, the actual Monaco piece. Again, we'll get to the status bar last. These were some types I needed. So I needed to specify that Monaco is external here, and also the ability to get this language identifier. That way I can know what language Monaco is detected. And by getting the window.monaco object, I can also look at each language and get their alias to get a nicer, a more pretty print version of it that I use. Not much changed here. The ability to set that argument. And then once it loads, instead of just directly setting the editor, now I get the editor, I call it current editor. I set it, but then I also update the process argument with the editor, called editor here. That's all that changes there when Monaco loads. Here's the new process argument I added called the Monaco process arguments, which has the editor. It's a standalone editor. So whenever a Monaco process loads, it's going to have one of those editor instances connected to it now. And now let's just look at the status bar because, yeah, this is a completely fresh component. Let's look at the HTML first. There's the markup. So it's got the styled status bar. It's made up of a few organized lists, a left one and a right one. The left one just shows line count. Monaco doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't actually show line count. I mean, you don't see it down here in my VS Code. You show what line you're on, what col you're on, but not the count. And then on the right side, I have position, which is that line 67, col 11, or whatever it happens to be in this case, like this here. We have I think I actually get rid of this. Isn't there a commit where I get rid of that? Let me see here. Status. No, don't bookmark this. Status bar. Oh, I don't mention it here. Fix Monaco. Don't need to know. That's this here. Let me just apply this. I think I basically just removed that. Yeah, let's not overcomplicate it. So I had this part. If you look at the code editor here at the bottom, you see this right here, spaces to CRLF. That's like information that I just don't care about at all, and I don't even want to waste my time putting that in the editor. So I'm gonna apply this patch where I actually got rid of that change, because hey, it's cool that I was able to know that, but I don't know why anyone would care that's using my website. And if they do, then I'll add it back one day. But it's really minor, really not something that I even want in the thing. So let's just apply that patch to get that out of there. Oh, there we go. So now that'll just be a little simpler, that status bar. If we open that file. Yeah, the markup's a little simpler now. The line count on one side, the position and language on another side. That's all I care about. That makes it look like a nice and simple one. And then here for the status bar, like I said, we keep track of language, position, and line count. When the status bar loads at the start here, the effect that loads, it has an update position. So it has these three functions it makes: update position, update line count, and update model. And then it attaches it to these events. Editor on change model content, then update the line count. On did change cursor position, update position. Did change model, update the model. So update the model, also updates line and position. And then for model, it gets the language. And like I said, it gets the list of all languages, and then it finds the alias, because that's what I want. And if it doesn't find the alias in the end, it'll just use the model language here. And that's just to get a prettier print version. Like in the case of TypeScript, it's like all lowercase, the word TypeScript. But if you go look at Monaco's language list, you can find that they have an alias where it's like capital T, capital S. And that's the way I prefer it to be displayed. And update position just gets the position. This is all stuff that's part of the editor. So editor.getModel.getValue in range of the selection. That'll tell you how much text has been selected. So I can do the how much characters were selected, and the get selection will tell you the position, line number, and the column. So that's everything, honestly. And then for styling, I mean, styling, you know. The colors and the visuals were an attempt to match VS Code's status bar. So, and I have a little extra padding on the first element. I have a little extra padding on the last element, because these are two different OLs. So the first one has padding on the left. The second one has padding on the right. And they have color differences when you hover and set them active. Let's take a look at it. So I'm going to take a random example file. I guess this markdown file will do. And let's open it up and see. So there we go. So now we have a status bar here. And it says markdown, line 1 of 3. And you see that updates. If I select this, you get the selected. It tells you how many lines it is. If I delete some lines, you see there's less lines. Oh, these are my stream notes from today, actually. That's funny. I just dragged these in. So I could make my stream notes. One day I'll be able to start doing my streams in my app more. Like, these are the stream notes we were just working on. So I like the status bar. I think it fits well. I think it makes a slimmed down version of VS Code, kind of. And yeah, I could save that, and then we have a save version that's much more small. You can delete it. Cool. All right, so then we did those 2 commits. Status bar for IDE, simplified one. Let's commit it. I'm happy with it. I think I might do tabs as one of the next things for the IDE, but we'll see. I'm also happy with each file opening on its own thing for now. When I do tabs, I'm going to have to do the diffing, because Monaco has the ability to do diffing too. Should be cool. All right, where were we here? So this one here, the add DN 3D, I don't need that one. That was something temporary. I even wrote in the commit temporary. I just needed to store those somewhere. But now I've since put those local. Those aren't part of the repo because that's part of my customization for my version of this that's going to be hosted on my website in the future. Don't check empty path. Sounds like good advice. Okay, so for get full path, I wasn't double checking that it was empty, and it was actually failing with the is absolute command. That command is quite absolute. It wants things to be its own little way. Probably this didn't need to be a patch because it's just like 2 lines, but we saw before how long it took me to paste 2 lines in the right spot. So let's just do that. Simple, just checking if it's empty or not. Another one bites the dust. We're already 1 hour and 22 in. We're making good progress. I think we'll have this episode done quicker than usual. I don't necessarily want them to be 3 hours every time, but I want to get through what I've done. I want to show you guys what I've done. Fix style and positioning. What's this about? I fixed this. I followed up on this already. This was because last time I didn't notice that -- fix doesn't work for these 2 files. I don't know why. I'm not going to deal with that today. Package upgrades. I hesitate to do these at this point. I guess at some point we have to do them. Let's save it to the end. Yeah, let's save it to the end. Maybe we'll do package upgrades at the end. If not, whatever. They never... Let's just see what we have right now for outdated and see if there's anything even worth doing. Yarn outdated. What do we got? Prettier, Next.js. Oh, Next.js had quite a bump. I mean, they're good updates, but I don't... If anything, they're just going to break stuff. And the resolution is going to be just roll back, so why even waste our time with it, you know? At some point, we'll have an episode where I'm going to have to upgrade all my downloaded dependencies plus my packages. And I actually do it quite often, but today I don't know if I'm going to upgrade packages. Fix Monaco open-close save issues. Yes, we had some open-close save issues. Let's see how we fixed them. In general, I did a lot of fixes for Monaco and for other different things. This episode. A lot of fixes episode. So in the config, I've added a URL delimiter. The purpose behind that is that Monaco itself, you can set up a URI for each Monaco model instance, kind of. And I want to be able to open 2 instances of the same file, possibly. But I needed a way to distinguish between them and still be able to properly detect, because Monaco saves all the editors in one place. So it can get a little confusing if you have the right editor specific to what you're what was changed. So because they had to be unique, I added this delimiter. And then I have this associated resources path as a way to look at each model's path that's been set, because I couldn't find an accessible API for that. So when I do create model URI now, before I was just parsing the path, like I say, and if there were two of them, it would cause an error. Now what I do is I create this URI where I go through the existing models, I make that custom instance one, and then I see if the model exists already with that URI, then I just recursively call the function again with a 1 and then a 2 and then whatever, iterating. Otherwise, if it didn't find it, then hey, let's just use it just like we were using it before here. And then I also have to check for the path here when I'm saving. So before I was just doing if the URI equals the URL, but I have to split that delimiter to see which instance it is. And if that matches, then I can save it. And yeah, I think that was working okay. I'm actually questioning this now. Was that working okay? I think so. I wonder if this, yeah, because this gets this modeled and it says, is this model the same path as what you want to save? Possibly this could cause an issue still, but let's just assume it doesn't. Let's just say that actually is decent. The logic of it's the same anyways. And that's it. Oh, and then also here, when before I was disposing of all models when one would close, that didn't make any sense. Just dispose of my model. So that was all that was required for opening and closing and saving to be fixed for Monaco. That got rid of a few red notes. My red post-its are the bugs. So that was Monaco. Next one here was, I think I did this already. Do not need, right, I ended up not committing that stuff. Here's for video. I also needed to fix open and close. For a few things I needed to fix open and close because I'm constantly making it more dynamic. And sometimes that's causing multiple triggerings of the dynamism, which of course is a mistake. And I guess tests would fix that, but at the same time, so would just fixing it. So I'm just going to fix it. It was just wrong anyways. What did I do here? Yeah. So before I had one function called load video, and at the start, when it would kick in, it would just load video, even if there was no video. That didn't make a lot of sense. So what I've done now is that the first effect is just load the player. Just get the player loaded, Don't even worry if there's a URL. Because this was getting triggered more than once, and it just wasn't necessary. And this was also getting triggered when it was closing, so I have this not closing check now. Because when you close the video, it would try to load the video again. So I had to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. Otherwise, not much change down here. Load video became extremely simple. It basically became this function was called load video, and if there was no player, it essentially would load the player and try to pass a URL in. And then the other scenario was just this very basic player.source, and then just changes the source. So now load video is just that. And it also has this catch clause because sometimes player source crashes. So I've just decided to wrap it in a try catch because the errors that happen seem completely isolated to video.js for some reason. Maybe down the road I might change that, but for now it's okay. Although I question it. Why do I need that? I don't quite remember why I needed that, but I think it's, like I say, the failure is on video.js's side, so I've decided to just ignore it for the time being by wrapping it in a try catch and then not doing anything with the catch. Now when I do load video, all it does is play, but it also updates the title. And now when I do load player, it doesn't pass the URL here anymore. It just straight up loads the player. Where's that command? Here. Without any, just a straight up config without passing a source. And the basics behind that is before it was causing double triggers too. It would like load video and then it would load video again. Now it just loads player with no URL, then it loads the video with the URL. So then playing of videos no longer can happen at instantiation of the video player. That was the biggest issue. And the second one was being the closing, trying to reload things because I wasn't checking if the effect was closing or not. That's that one fixed. What's the next one here? Remove updater on close. What the heck does that mean? Ah, okay, yes. This was just me not cleaning up the photo app here. So I have a pan zoom change effect that was occurring on the photo app. But when I would close the photo app, it would trigger this again because the zoom, oh right, because if it was maximized and you closed, as you were closing, it was like shrinking and updating and it tried updating the title because it considered that to be pan zoom change. So all that I had to do was that as soon as this component's closed, I needed to make a cleanup effect here, and the cleanup effect would remove that listener. So as soon as I press close, it runs that effect, and then as it's maximizing, it's not going to trigger zoom changes because there's no longer an event listener on pan zoom change. In general, you want to do that with your hooks or with your use effects. If you're going to be doing an add listener here, typically you want to clean it up here. Sometimes you don't need to, but sometimes you do. Sometimes if your listener was going to start doing stuff and trying to update states, React stuff, you don't want that happening. You want to stop that listener before anything else can occur. Remove updater on close. Remove pan, let's say pan zoom updater. Give it a slightly better detail. Okay. Don't have too many left. Remove user icons from repo. Right. This one I ended up not having, but some of these, yeah, some of these do need to be removed. We can just go in and manually remove these, because like I said, or wait, have I fixed these? Yes. We don't need these anymore. Let's go in and remove these. Public, users, no, sorry, system, icons. But there were some here that are not system icons. Which ones were they? These icons specifically are for shortcuts, are for programs that I only host locally. So it's Doom, Calibri, Linux. Let's delete them here. Doom, Calibri, Linux, and that's it. Doom, Calibri, Linux. All right. I have a lot of icons now that I look at it. Let's delete these ones too. Doom. And now I'm storing these in a different location now, Calibri, and I'll show you which location right now. So if we go into the users folder here, there's an icons folder now. And in here I've got the Doom, the Calibri, the Linux, and also these 3 new games. So now I've made a new way to store those icons because I don't need those to be part of the repository. Those aren't unique to my program. The emulator's already there, but my use cases of my DOS games and my icons for them, I'm just going to host those locally and not make those part of the repo. That's the mentality there. So remove user icons from repo. So the only icons that are left now are essentially like app icons or system icons. Things that are all relevant to things that are in the repo. Reorganize start menu. Yes, okay. I'm going to try to do this as a patch. Oh, I actually didn't switch to the browser, but I've already saved the patch, so let's not even... Oh, let's switch. I pressed the button anyways. Let's switch back. So I got... This is a simple one. Basically just me reorganizing some stuff. Let's take a look at it here. So in git ignore, I've added... Now I have an emulators folder and a games folder. And in the games folder, I have Space Cadet and nothing else. And the emulators folder, anything goes in there. Now, the reason I just specify Space Cadet in here is because some of those games are, again, those user games that I don't want to be part of the main thing. And we'll just move those manually here. Users, start menu, desktop. All right, I already have them in here, games. So these are those ones here. So we already had Commander Keen, Doom, Duke, and Jazz. Space Cadet, we are going to make part of the repo. So that's why it's in the git don't ignore list. But now Space Cadet's in the games folder. And now my emulators are JS-DOS, Ruffle, and Virtual86. Rather than have them being in this root path here, I've kind of organized the emulators into one place. Because they don't do much by themselves. If you just open them without a ROM, without a file, then it's just a black app that does nothing, basically. I also want to do yarn build fs, but this also won't get committed. It's just that'll just update the file system that we reference. Otherwise, that's it for that. I'm going to commit that one, and then we'll just take a peek. Well, let's take a peek before I commit it and make sure it looks the way I wanted it to. So now when we go to the, let's clear the files here. We go to the start menu. There we go. So we have emulators, and we have some emulators in there. And in games, we have our games. Space Cadet's one of the main ones. And then these are the DOS ones. And then we have our other apps. Cool. So that worked. Oh, my mustache is so itchy right now. What next? We don't have too many left. Reorganize start menu. Yep. Safer base command parsing. This looks extremely simple. Wait, what happened? What did I sneak in here? Oh, I remember. This was one I did today where I accidentally committed 2. So let's do this first one here. This one's really easy. That's the safer base command parsing. That's practically nothing. I think it was an issue with a blank. This was part of my new command interpreting parse command where I didn't handle base command being completely empty. And then when I pressed enter, it would break a bit. Finish the stream and make your web desktop is done. I don't know where you're getting with this one, Abrar, but I don't know what that means, to be honest. It won't be done. I'm at least doing 52 streams. This is stream number 49, so I have at least 3 more before I say I've done a year of streams. I'm going to release it. But as it is, it's open source. If you want to clone it and play around with it, it's always there to play around with. And until then, I'm just going to keep doing videos and having fun. I don't have any interest in ending any streams early or that kind of thing. I just I do it for the game, you know? For the love of the game. But I will release it someday. I guess I just see so many little things that I know can be fixed in some reasonable amount of time. That's where my post-its come in. I've only got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 post-its left over there, actually, versus like 200 that I've done. Or maybe there's only 100 there, I don't know. Let's commit this safer base command and then just slip in that other thing. So here's another, this other one is just me fixing the terminal visuals in a way that I was actually quite happy with how easy it worked. So if we see right now, I have terminal autofit running that will redo the columns and rows, but it messed up the status bar a little bit, or the scroll bar. So you see the scroll bar here, there's like space here and space here. Not ideal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the styling here. I'm gonna switch to the code and find the styled terminal. So for the terminal element, I just need to tell the terminal element to be 100% height. And the viewport needs to be 100% width. And that's all that actually was needed to make that more dynamic. So now you see here when we open the terminal, if I resize it, the scroll bar basically stays right where it should stay. And I wonder now if I don't need the aspect ratio thing. I was doing, oh, let's keep it. I kind of like the maintain aspect ratio for the terminal, and I like it having that same shape. Works better for the cols and rows. Otherwise, I think this one's done. Finish coding and replace it. What does that mean? Like do a version 3? Is that what you're saying, Abrar? I'm still working on version 2. I've already done version 1, so if you want to check out version 1, I could post a link to it right now here. This is my original version. If you want to check that one, it's more like a Mac-tastic one. Got a little more of a Mac styling. I did this a year ago, but this one is much more advanced. I mean, the wallpaper is the same, but very, very little else is the same. And even the wallpaper is not the same. I recoded every single aspect of this, starting from a basic Hello World app to where we are today over the last 49 streams. But so yeah, I'm pretty happy with where it's going, and I don't feel the need to rush it, to be honest. So better resizing for terminal. Here we go. Better resizing for terminal. Commit that one in too. And what do we have left here? Add quotes to autocomplete. Right. This one I don't think has code. This one's just me improving the echo command. But this was that other piece that I wanted to add. So let's upgrade that echo command one more time, the lib. Like I said, I cloned that repo, and I've kind of been doing little tweaks to it. I think I probably will add that in very shortly to the as a PR for the repo. But I don't know if they care to commit it or anything. Probably not, I would guess. Just gonna paste it in here, replace that. So if you see here, I've changed the file, add quotes to autocomplete, and I'm gonna demo it to you right now. We go into the browser here, and now when we type, so if we do dir, we see the start menu has a space. So let's say cd st, and then I'll press tab. There we go, and it added the quotes. And then when I press enter, it goes into it. Nice. And if there's no space, it doesn't add the quotes. And then finally, the last one is this PDF viewer, part 1. So I say part 1 because we don't have buttons, but the actual display of the PDF is not so bad, honestly. And I need a good sample PDF. I think I had on their website, I think pdf.js examples had a PDF example somewhere. There's a PDF right there. Let's use that one. I'm going to go to the code and apply my patch. Oh, what happened there? Trailing whites place. Okay, didn't seem to care about it, but it complained. That's weird. So we'll once again call this PDF viewer part 1 because we don't have the buttons. We'll mention it as that here, PDF viewer part 1. And I wanted to download that PDF, demo PDF. And we'll just go right to showing a demo of it working. To do that, I think I need to run the build file system again because we added a new shortcut. There we go. Now let's demo it. I'm going to clear the cache again. I'll drag the PDF on. So here's the PDF. So you see we get an icon. I've also got the PDF app in here. And if I double click it, there we go. So the size is a little monkey still. It's still so-so, but the basics of it worked in that we have the PDF displayed there. So this PDF is completely separate from anything the browser is doing. This is my website completely parses the PDF and makes these pages. I'm going to have a zoom button. I'm going to have it so when you go down, there's going to be a thing saying what page you're on. Maybe I'll have a jump to page button and a few other toolbar buttons. I'm going to have the default size change a little bit. But this is the basics of it. This is using something called PDF.js, which is from Mozilla. It's the same PDF viewer that's used in Firefox, I believe. They have a nice little demo because they've made a modern viewer with the buttons and stuff. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I'm doing the same exact display. I haven't made these buttons yet. Otherwise, though, it's pretty much the same. The one I have, and it's got mine floats. I've got the spacing part. I've got these little canvas pages. That's it. That's all there is right now for the PDF. But it's a good start. It's a step in the right direction. Maybe I'll have my resume on there for the fun of it. I'm actually not looking for work, but I thought, I mean, I don't have many personal PDFs, so it's like, well, what am I going to put up there? Might as well put that. Let's look at the changes. Let's look what happened. I installed PDF.js dist as a dev dependency so I could use the types. I got my container component that has an empty OL list to start. I've always got my container components that I've been using. We got the shortcut here for the PDF. We got the icons that I made. We got their source files, their worker and their dist file. I've updated the directory with the entry referencing its icon and the color that matched the Chrome PDF viewer's background color, which I liked. I like their gray, so I've copied it. I've also added that it supports PDF extensions to have that reference. And now let's look at the two files that made it work. So I use my load files command that I use all the time here. Load the lib files, and then I set the worker. This is just like how the example says to do it. Basically, once it's loaded, you set this worker PDF file. So those are my two source files. And then I have a render pages function that I made. And now what render pages does here is it says, it starts the loading. It grabs the document from the PDF.js lib called getDoc, where I get the file itself. It gets its code. And I await it here. That's how you have to await that one. And then I set the pages here in the state. So I loop through I make an array that's the size of the amount of pages. And then for each one of those, I use the index as the page number to render each page into this array. So I basically just make an array by all I know about it is how many pages there are. And then render page runs a function called get page. And this is how the get page part works based on how PDF.js's example is of it. You make a canvas, you get its context, you request the page by page number via get page. Then you get the viewport based on a certain scale. You match that to the canvas, and then you render the page onto the canvas with that viewport. And then that's it. And then I return that canvas element that's been made into a page. So I do that for each page, and I make that array. And then once render pages has rendered each page into that pages array here of canvas elements at the scale that I've requested, then here, if the pages change and if they have a length, I get that OL element, and I remove all the existing children from it, and then I dump in the new canvas elements, where I say for each page, I want you to make an li wrapper element, put the canvas page in that, and then put that inside the organized list of elements. So this is a little non-Reacty part, but it really didn't serve itself to be part of React because the lib kind of just says, give me a canvas and I'll do stuff to it and then I'll give it back to you. So this worked better, in my opinion, for this purpose, at least. And then if the scale changes, what would that change? That would change render page. Yeah. Which would actually not change render pages. So it wouldn't re-render the pages? What does that mean? Maybe this here would need to change. I'm just trying to think what would need to change actually to re-render the pages if the scale changes. I think that's missing. I mean, like I said, this is part 1. But I think what we need to do with the zoom buttons now is that if the scale changes, once we have a set scale, then we need to once again run render pages, because render pages will recreate the viewports at that new scale and then remake the canvases and then put them back on. So we don't have that piece yet, but we have all the basic support functions to make it happen. And that's in the hook. And then for the styling, not much had to change. I used flex so that the pages could be aligned center-wise. For the OL, I positioned it right at the top. And then for each page, I have padding, top and bottom of 4 pixels. And I also have a little border. A little shadow, sorry. And that's it. And that's how it makes it look that way. Now, because we did a patch on the package.json file, we don't actually have the real file. So let me just run yarn again. I can just run yarn, actually. I don't have to run, because it's in package file now. I just have to run yarn to update the lock file. There we go. That should have updated the lock file. Well, I guess the lock file already got updated here. Now it's part of my node modules anyways. Now it's been downloaded in that way. Well, that's it. Honestly, let's commit that one. That's it. That's the PDF viewer. I already demoed it too. Last but not least, I guess let's do those package upgrades. Let's just do them because they're easy enough. I don't know if they're going to break anything or not, but let's just do them and quickly see. Actually, let's do them next episode, honestly. There's no value to the viewer for me to do those package updates. Do they work? Do they not work? Who cares? You know, just a package update. So other than that, okay, I'm trying to start streaming again. I appear to have frozen. I'm just going to wait and see if my stream kicks back in. Looks like it's kicked back in now. Sorry for the freeze there. Right at the end of the episode, almost at the end, and it's frozen on me. I had just switched over to the browser to see if there were any commits left, and there weren't. So I've actually done them all for this week. We did it in under 2 hours, and that's it. That's the show for this week. If you like this show, please throw me a like. If you like what I'm doing, you want to support me, please subscribe. If you want to, and feel free to leave comments if you have any other ideas, suggestions. Thank you, Abrar, for all the comments and all the game suggestions today. It is appreciated. It was a bit much this episode because I wasn't able to write them all down, and I'd also like other people to be able to add games in the future. So let's not go too crazy with. I've got such a list of backlog of games at this point. I think I'm good for games right now, but we'll also follow up on Discord as well later. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys for viewing. Once again, like I said, throw me a like if you liked it. That's it. Sorry for the stream crashing right at the end, but that's just life for you. Say love you. Anyways, see you next episode. Thank you. Bye.